So the war has started, and we have Kumbhakarna already entering. We saw this beautiful exchange between Kumbhakarna and Vibhishan, where we see that Kumbhakarna is not deluded in the same way that Ravana is. And here, Guruji makes the distinction that Kumbhakarna represents pride, where Ravana represents this spiritual ignorance, or this attachment to this jivaness, which I spoke a little bit about last week, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. It's that part of us that just doesn't want to break free of our individuality. But it's also, I found it fascinating that Kumbhakarna represents pride, because he sleeps for 6 months of the year, eats for 3 days, and goes back to sleep. So doesn't do much. And then he represents pride. And then like pride is associated with this character that doesn't do much, but still is proud. And so often we see that with pride, right? That, I mean, sure, there are people who have great accomplishments and then are proud of their great accomplishments, or even not so great accomplishments, but accomplishments nonetheless. And so they are proud about it. But we see pride enter in these small, small ways of somebody who sleeps in most days, and then the one day they woke up early. And then they so proud of I woke up early. And then it's such a small thing, but the pride will be so big. Or somebody, well, not somebody, all of us, continuously make a mistake, maybe forget to do something, or small things, right, that we don't leave, not do the dishes when we should have, forgot our turn in something, and then we remember, right? And then we're so proud that we remembered it, whereas everyone else is already doing it. And so the idea being that pride can come, and Kumbhakarna is huge, right? That's his distinguishing feature. He's like this giant amongst all these monkeys, and the monkeys were actually quite big in themselves also. But pride can come in such big measures for such small things. Also, what's interesting about Kumbhakarna is that he has incredible potential. Like, he has strength, he has wisdom, he has spiritual maturity, because he's recognized Ramchandraji, and he's advised Ravana not to do this, but Ravana says he has to, and then he's loyal to Ravana. He praises Vibhishan for surrendering to Ramchandraji. And so you see that he has this spiritual understanding, and yet he's not doing it. Or even physically, he has so much potential, but he's sleeping. And so that's another interesting thing about pride, is that potential then, like, pride almost blocks potential from coming out, which I thought was so fascinating. And maybe other people had realized that before, but for me, I just realized that today when I was contemplating on pride, thinking about the character of Kumbhakarna. Because really, there's so much potential in Kumbhakarna. And, you might say it wasn't his fault because he got cursed. I mean, Saraswati ji sat on his tongue and tricked him, and so he asked to sleep, and so it's not his fault. The potential is not there. But that's also the thing about pride, right? That actually pride makes us quite delicate, because if you see so many challenges Vibhishan goes through, and he just endures, overcomes. And then, whereas you don't see that with Kumbhakarna. Like there's potential and he can do, but there's no overcoming. Like there's no overcoming of the spiritual laziness. There's no overcoming of the physical laziness. And so, in a way, pride makes us feel because we've accomplished, we don't have to. And so, encourages laziness, or, like I said, blocks potential in a way. And so very often we hear pride comes before a fall, but here in a way you don't even rise because it stops potential and it gives us excuses for not doing whatever it is that we're capable of doing, that needs to be done, that we want to do. And so from this point of view, Kumbhakarna's character is fascinating to reflect on. And so they're like in other characters in the Ramayana is so clear cut. Vibhishan is sattvic and is loyal and he stays sattvic. And Ravana is deluded and lustful in every sense, not just in the physical lust, but even for wealth and power, and stays that way. And only this Vibhishan has this little bit of dichotomy and complexity of helps you to really ponder on that, and that's pride. Because pride can be big for small things, but pride can also be big for big things. And it's not so simple in our mind how it sits. Because sometimes when we have pride, we feel it's, what's the word? Self-esteem. Or self-acknowledgement, self-worth. We think it's deserving almost. I'm not getting quite the right word. Entitled. Yeah. We entitled to be feeling this way because we've done. And so it's not such an easy thing, pride, right? I've worked really, really hard and then overcome so much. And so now I almost feel like I deserve this position of being acknowledged or having this place of power. And that's why pride is like, so you can have pride about not doing anything, which is also fascinating. There's then this pride of where I've earned. And, you know, there was this beautiful incident that I had heard of where Swami Chidanandaji of Divine Life Society was on a dais with 3 other Mahatmas. And one of the other Mahatmas, Swami Akhandananda, who's also very, very respected, was praising Swami Chidanandaji. and really praised him. And so when it was now Chidanandaji's turn to talk, the exact words he said is, if Maharaj has said this, it has to be true. Because now that respect for a Mahatma, right? You can't say, oh, you're flattering me, because it's a Mahatma and Mahatma's words hold weight. And so look at that respect. Like this in itself shows him how worthy he is of praise. That because a Mahatma has said it, it has to be true. Because Mahatmas live truth and speak truth, and we listen to them for that reason. And then he said, and if all those good things are in me, then Bhagwan put them there. And so straight away, owning, not, like, so if somebody praises you, not that we have to say, no. because we see that also a lot. So somebody praised and there's acknowledgement, but then immediately there's this, it's Bhagwan who put it there. And then there's no room for pride. But there's also no low self-esteem. And so it's this, like it's quite a fine balance. And a lot of these things we don't have to say, right? It's in our own thinking. In the West also, when they'll say you have to learn how to take a compliment. If you can't take a compliment, that in itself is a short, right? And so when, even we teach our friends, so as parents, we teach our kids. And so somebody's complimented you and you say, say thank you. Accept it gracefully. So you don't say, yeah, right, I'm amazing. But you also don't, discard it, in which we do sometimes in that Dina Bhav. And so it's true. Accepting is beautiful because we do need our self-worth and we do need a sense of a strong foundation and a purpose of life and a sense of we are accomplishing as we are working. But at the same time, accepting makes us a little bit susceptible to feeling, I deserve. So, and then if it gets taken away, and sometimes things do get taken away, then there's that sense of cheated, or that sense of betrayed, which then can lead to anger or bitterness or whatever. But straight away, if I think he put it there, and then say, if in some moment, like, so let's say if it's something like praised for being patient, he put it there. And then in some incident and I lose my patience, then I think, oh, Maya won. And there's no sense of fail, but there's also an acknowledgement that the patience wasn't mine to start with. It was grace that it was there, and this time it was Maya that won. And then it helps to be able to see ourselves as instruments. So when I'm being patient, I'm being an instrument of, and then when I'm being impatient, I'm being instrument of Maya. And either way, I'm instrument only, right? So nice then. Otherwise, it's I, and then I lost, and then I didn't succeed, and then I was patient, and look, I'm so patient. And then it's so that line is so fine, where we can just get lost in so many thoughts and opinions and emotions, whereas we can hold on to, and in the first thing we learn in Vedanta is if you want to grow spiritually, you have to have this quality of Vivek. Vivek is to know the difference between right and wrong. But we already at the level where right and wrong is super easy. Right? Actually, my Balviar kids already by 6 pros. They can tell you what's right and wrong. So we were also pros by 6 of right and wrong. Whether we do it or not is a different story, but we know. But here in the spiritual journey, it's not so much about right and wrong. It's this Vivek. Am I operating from limited entity? Am I operating from I'm being an instrument? And if I make that switch continuously in the day, instrument of Sattva, instrument of Rajas, instrument of Maya, instrument of Bhagwan, then I remain instrument. And so that holding on to limited identity of me already gets reduced. And then obviously we want to be instruments of Bhagwan more than we want to be instruments of Maya. And then that consciousness of instrument will help me to choose instrument of Bhagwan. Because we already know what's right, wrong, what's better, what's worse. And so Kumbhakarna's personality actually really helped me to reflect quite a bit on this topic of pride, which comes up so easily in us, but also is, I think I myself personally have stopped seeing it as a negative thing. Because sometimes when we're very black and white, we're not able to see it clearly. Because then we like it's negative and we don't want it. But it's in me. And so just to be getting to know it better. The better we get to know this, when that pride that's in us, then the more we're able to like maybe, like when I do the flowers, then you arrange it. And this way works. Like push it more this way, push it that way, cut, trim it, until he takes it away. Because it won't go. He only has to take. And in a way, all our thoughts, we just have to keep arranging them. Put one in the front, put one at the back. Like literally when I'm arranging the flowers, I'm thinking that. We'll put patience in the front, irritability at the back. We want to highlight devotion. We'll put the big flower that's big in the middle. Highlight devotion. We want to contrast playfulness with discipline. Both are beautiful, and so the contrast looks so nice. And everything we can use to see it in a different way, right? So it's not like get rid of all the negative thoughts. Nothing's totally negative. So even that pride, if it's there, we can still arrange the thoughts to be able to see it for what it is, and then not give in to it. And then think, instrument. So Ramchandraji comes into the battlefield for the first time because Kumbhakarna is running such havoc and he has killed so many monkeys and injured so many monkeys, even though the monkeys have gone into, with so much enthusiasm, the monkeys have gone to fight Kumbhakarna. It's amazing how much enthusiasm these monkeys have. And that's why it had to be a Vanara Sena only, because only the Vanaras could be this enthusiastic about fighting or about doing anything at all. And then finally, because, I had already mentioned last week that Kumbhakarna had put Sugriva in his armpit and then he had banged Hanuman. Kumbhakarna only warrior on the field that would be Hanumanji. Hanumanji actually fell. He collapsed, he got up again, but nobody else on the battlefield was even able to get Hanumanji with that much force. And why? Why to have this? Why am I saying this? Because to show Kumbhakarna's strength. And if you think of everything that Hanumanji is the embodiment of humility, of seva. Hanumanji is humility, seva bhav, and Kumbhakarna is pride, and pride even though Hanumanji just fell for a few moments, pride does that, right? It hijacks our whole mind. So even though my identity is, I'm a bhakta, I'm a dasa, I'm a hijacked, right? Proud. And you'll see that between two devotees, right? Like both are doing seva and then one gets this is my job. Like, why are you coming and doing my job? Swing, hijacked. and that's in a devotee relationship, but even in the vyavaharic sense, and small things. When it's big things, we alert. It's when the small things happen that we don't get it. Like somebody bumps us in the street and Like, don't you know who I am? How dare you? I'm an important person here. And so it's this small ways in which it sneaks in. Of course, it sneaks in big ways as well, but you'll be able to see those more clearly. So I don't need to emphasize that when it creeps in big ways. So he's running havoc. And remember, I mentioned this last week as well, they gave him alcohol, right? So Kumbhakarna is already a force to reckon with. And then they gave him alcohol so that he's even more erratic and not drunk only on alcohol, but drunk on that when you're a warrior, there's a momentum of fierceness and aggression that has to kick in for you to be able to kill. And so he's drunk on that as well now. And so Sugriv manages to escape from Kumbhakarna and he runs to Ramchandraji and he's praising Ramchandraji. And you know when somebody is praising you because they want something. Because Sugriv has praised Ramchandraji on many occasions. On some occasions, it's because he wanted something. And interestingly, like Hanumanji only praises Ramchandraji when Ramchandraji is not there. Sugriv is praising Ramchandraji very often to Ramchandraji. And so 2-3 times we've seen he's wanted something, and one time is because he mucked up and he needed to praise Ramchandraji when he didn't collect the army and all of that, and he's apologizing, so he's praising Ramchandraji. Also interesting how you see different personalities and our own minds' tendencies to do the same thing. And so it's time for Ramchandraji to enter the battlefield because nobody else is going to be able to kill Kumbhakarna. So he comes onto the battlefield. Siyavara Ramachandra ki jai. And so Ramchandraji on the battlefield is a sight to behold. Extremely, he is a king after all. And so he stands there with such majesty but his power is beautiful to behold. And Ramchandraji could really wield power. And so you could see his power in the way he wielded his weapons. And so I think with 3 arrows, he cleared the battlefield of all the asuras that were on the battlefield. And done, gone. There's no asura standing. Only Kumbhakarna. And now this description with Kumbhakarna and Ramchandraji is horrible. Kumbhakarna refuses to die. And so Ramchandraji has to basically cut off the limbs and then finally cut off the head, and it's not pleasant. But he shoots Kumbhakarna's head straight to Ramana. Yeah, not, I guess it's battle, but it's also a constantly trying to show Ravana that stop. And it's another way of saying, if I can do this, then, please stop the war. But it was also because there's no other way to destroy Kumbhakarna. So he got the boon that he can sleep and eat, but he also he was difficult to kill. And so it had to be a very prolonged, violent death. But he dies eventually, and it takes quite a long time for him to die. And then this is depicted in every single TV series because it's written in all the Ramayans also. From his body comes a light and merges into Ramchandraji. Now, it doesn't say that everywhere, but because it says it in 1 or 2 places in the TV series, they show it everywhere. Light coming from the, tomb. Everyone can see it. It's not just the great Rishi Munis that could see this light being merged into Ramchandraji. Everyone could see it. And so everyone was, of course, very, very curious. From our side, we know it's because of the story of Jay and Vijay. And it's that coming back. But it's also because he was thinking of Ramchandraji. I mean, of course, Ramchandraji is standing in front of him and shooting arrows, and so he's looking at him. But you know, from when he spoke to Vibhishan, that you are blessed to be able to serve divinity. I'm not blessed to be able to serve, but at least I'll die by his hands. And so you know that there's this surrender in this way that he's thinking of, Ramchandraji. So when Kumbhakarna falls and this Mandodari is upset and all the queens are upset and the ministers are upset, everyone's crying, and even Ravana faints for almost a day because he had great love for his brother. And he really believed Kumbhakarna to be the thing that will win the war for him. So both, losing someone he loved and then losing the possibility of winning the war, he's devastated. And so here you see this tail end of the war, you really see a lot of emotion in Ravana, and he faints. But then when he comes to, and all the wives and children are crying, he gives them Vedantic lecture on how the body will die one day, and so it has died, but the soul is eternal, so you need not grieve. And so you see this, previously also Ravana has done this. And it's a very asuric quality of when you need satsang, you use it to give somebody else, but not for himself. And he's learned enough to have understood it, but not pure enough to have imbibed it. And then that's the differentiating feature, being learned and being pure. And to be able to imbibe this knowledge, a certain amount of purity has to be there in our minds and in our hearts. And so now when Ravana is so distraught, Indrajit comes again. And Indrajit seems to be Ravana's favorite. And again, he gives him hope. But don't worry, Father, I will win this battle for you. And he really is quite accomplished. And the next morning when he goes out, he really does draw havoc in the battlefield. So Indrajit uses a lot of Maya techniques. And so he makes himself invisible. And so people can't see him. So it's very hard to fight an enemy that you cannot see. And Indrajit represents delusion. That's exactly delusion, right? You can't see it. And so it's so hard to fight. And Indrajit almost wins the battle here. I forgot an important point. When Kumbhakarna falls, then all the devatas are showering flowers, and Narad Muni comes to praise Ramchandraji. So now when Indrajit's in the battlefield and he's very successfully winning, he releases a Naga punch that binds all the monkeys, binds even Lakshman and Ramchandraji. And so effectively, the wars come to a standstill. But surprisingly, Jambavan didn't get affected by this Nagapash. And so he's free. And so now Jambavan walks into the battlefield and as though like, hey, you, to Indrajit. And Indrajit's surprised. Like, the Nagapash has bound Ram and Lakshman. How did this old man not get affected by it? And so he's still trying to figure it out himself, but he uses the excuse, because you were old, I spared you. And immediately Jambavan replies, well, that's rubbish, and gives him a very strong blow. Now, where Jambavan gets the energy from, because Indrajit falls, collapses. But Indrajit has quite a few boons. which are working to his favor. Because the punch that Jambavan gave him would have killed anyone else. But because he has these boons, he doesn't die. So he comes back out, and then Jambavan catches him and swirls him and beats him, and like child's play. Like here's Indrajit, who has bound the whole army with a weapon, and now suddenly Jambavan has come and is totally beating Indrajit. And this is also such a nice thing that, and Guruji says that Bhagwan gives everyone a chance. Every devotee who is sincere and who has surrendered and wants to do seva, Bhagwan will find. Like in this whole Ramayana, we know Jambavan's there because of that one incident where Jambavan tells Hanumanji, you have forgotten your powers, and then nothing else. And then here, on this day of the battle, it's Jambavan that's defeating Indrajit, who is so strong, like phenomenally strong, that even Hanumanji, Sugriv, Nala, all of them have been bound. All of them have been successfully, taken care of by this Indrajit, and now Jambavan is coming. So two things here. Bhagwan gives everyone a chance, and if you are an available instrument, so coming back to this idea of being an instrument, then when Bhagwan needs to use you, his power works through you. His strength works through you. Because Jambavan at this stage is very old. He would not have had that kind of strength. But it's there. He's doing it. Where's that strength? Because no other instrument's available. Hanumanji is bound by the Nagapash, Sugriv, Angad is bound, this one. Everybody is bound. There's no other instrument available. This is the only instrument available Bhagwan will use. And he was available, number one. Two, then it's Bhagwan's strength only working. And then while this is all happening, Jambavan is beating up Indrajit. Narad Muniji, who wasn't in the battlefield but who had come, invokes Garuda. And so the Nagpash can be nullified by an eagle. And Garuda, being king of eagles, now eats up all the snakes. And so everybody is now once again free. So all that work that Indrajit did, and he would have won, is diffused by Naraji calling Garuda, but he could only do that because Jambavan was distracting Indrajit. And so battle is saved by who? Sometimes the most unlikely person. As long as we surrender to Bhagwan and he is working through us, whatever we are lacking in, he will fill it. But if we're working for ourselves, then what we are lacking in stays lacking. And so this incident of Jambavan rising for the occasion is really, really lovely for that purpose alone. And so Jambavan's kicks or punches something Indrajit, and he lands up back in Ravana's palace. Not even Ramchandraji and them. Jambavan only sends him straight back to his father. And then he's so embarrassed because he told his father he'd win the day, and he almost did win the day, but then this happened. And so he says, I will now do this yagna to invoke Mother Kali to get the power to destroy the whole army. And here, Vibhishan already knew that that's the course of action that Indrajit would take. And Vibhishan tells Ramchandraji, you have to stop this yagna at any cost. Because if he succeeds in this yagna, he will become indestructible. He's already got too many boons, and if he gets any more, then we won't be able to defeat him. And so it's interesting because Ramchandraji pauses for a moment and thinks, this whole journey started because I have to protect Yagna. Ramchandraji himself is born out of Yagna, right? Dashrath Maharaj did the Yagna, and from that blessing, Ramchandraji is born. And then Vishwamitra comes and takes Ramchandraji into the forest to protect Yagna. And that's how he starts killing the asuras. And then when he's exiled, he makes a vow in his exile to kill all the asuras that are destroying Yagna. And now he has to destroy this Yagna. But we see in the chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita that even yagnas can be sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So sattvic yagnas is when we come together to do what is for the higher good for everyone. And Gurudev even gives the example of the Olympics as a sattvic yagna. So yes, doing havan and puja and all of that is yagna. But if you see in the Olympics, till today, there's a great sense of brotherhood, sisterhood, countries coming together. It's about the sports. It's about encouraging each other. Like there's lots of small stories you'll hear of even athletes. Like there's of course competitiveness and jealousy, but there's lots of stories where one athlete will be like, no, come on, you can do this. You've reached here. Just participating already at the Olympics is accomplishment. Even if you don't succeed, you have to keep trying. And so that spirit of bringing out the best is there in Olympics, and that spirit of everyone coming together and it not being personal is very much also there. And so even that's yagna, and it's sattvic, because it's togetherness, bringing out best. And actually in the Olympics, when one athlete is good, the whole world admires them. Like whichever country they're from. Like everyone will say, yeah, they're really good. Which is how it should be. It shouldn't matter whether you're from this country, this religion, this country. If you're good, you're good. And use that as a way to inspire other athletes or to bring out skill. So those kind of qualities is still yagna, even if it's not a offering into. It's a different kind of offering. Right? Like offering ignorance into the fire of knowledge. This is also yagna. So sattvic is when it brings out the best. And it brings togetherness. Important quality of sattva is it brings togetherness. Just me worshipping divinity is not enough for it to be sattvic. Very important that it brings togetherness with people. Rajasic yagna is when I have my ulterior motives. Like we'll all get together and we'll do this and it's very good, but I also make a very nice profit. I get lots of attention. And I get to highlight my talent, and so everyone will notice me. Something. There's some personal benefit. There will be benefit for everyone as well. Granted, but I'll have my personal benefit as well. Those are rajasic yagnas, and that's happening all the time. Till today, lots in corporates, all the time. They'll be doing great things, but then there's also personal benefit. So that it's fine. Tamasic yagna is when we invoke. Okay, so tamasic yagna is when we invoke Bhagwan to help me hurt someone else. Or we invoke Bhagwan's grace and then we hurt ourselves with it. Hurt someone else, in the case of Indrajit, it's very easy. He's harnessing Shakti so that he can destroy Ramchandraji and Lakshman. In today's world, they call it black magic, what he's doing. So it's a little bit underhanded. It's not a one-on-one fight. It's not an equal. You put the other person in a disadvantage, and then you fight. Yeah. Or we use the example. I can't think of an example. But to accomplish sometimes something where we hurt ourselves in the process, could be even physically, but things like intoxicants, steroids, like these Olympic athletes that are using steroids. So they're harnessing a power, but they're hurting themselves. Other ways also that I can't think of too many examples. So even though Bhagwan has taken avatar to protect Yagna, this incident is relevant because he's destroying tamasic Yagna. Yeah. So protecting Yagna includes destroying tamasic Yagna, because it goes against the spirit of what Yagna means. Yeah. Yagna means coming together for greater good. But they're using the principles to invoke and then to hurt. So it's actually not Yagna. But the principles that they're using are Yagna principles. So Ramchandraji tells Lakshman, you go. And here, Lakshman's been waiting. Ever since he got shot with that arrow and he woke up because of the Sanjeevani, he's been waiting to fight Indrajit again. And so they go, and actually Indrajit's highly disciplined. And so it was very, very hard for them to distract him. Finally, the Vanaras pulled his hair and pinched him. Finally, that was the way they got to distract him from. And then once he was distracted and he turned around to shoo them away, then Lakshman came and stood in front of him, and they had a fight equals, one-on-one. Even there, Indrajit uses his illusionary tactics. But Lakshman is now so incredibly focused that he's not deluded by the illusions. And Lakshman is able to shoot and destroy him. And once again, the body is sent to Ravan. And this once again distorts, totally distorts Ravan. But there's two very important things to make note of here. When they're fighting, so Lakshman is fighting Indrajit, and before that last arrow shoots, Indrajit says, where is Ram? And then the arrow pierces him. And so his last word is, and so he's purified of everything he's done. And at that point in time, they were all there. Angad, Sugriv, Hanumanji, Lakshman. And Sugriv and Hanumanji say, how blessed is he? I can't remember who said what. I think it was Sugriv who said, how blessed is he that his last word is Ram, and so he is purified. And I think it's Hanuman who said, no. It's his mother's punya. Mandodari's tapas and Mandodari's devotion. And as a mother, of course, she has love for her son. And he was efficient and disciplined only and serving his father. Actually, he was serving his father. And so here you see in terms of what he, of course, fighting against Ramchandraji is adharma, but all the good qualities in him, that those good qualities have punya. And then also we must see this, right? Like sometimes we think bad and we write it off, but you can't do that. You can't write off a full person because it doesn't, the nature, laws of nature don't work person. The laws of nature work as principles. Not just actions, but even qualities. Like the quality of being disciplined will bear fruit. The quality of being loyal will bear fruit. And so person is a accumulation of a lot of qualities, a lot of karmas, and so it's not going to be so easy to be able to say bad. And I'm like, why does Indrajit get to say Ram at the end? There were lots of good things that he followed and the principles that he followed. And even to be able to attain that much power as a warrior, there would have been a fair amount of tapas. There would have been a fair amount of single-pointedness of mind. There would have been a fair amount of clarity of thought. There would have been loyalty, etc., 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 etc. But here we see, just like how we see in Duryodhana's case, the blessings we get from parents, grandparents, sometimes we have no idea that it's their blessings that we are able to, like in his case, say Ram. And definitely, I mean, he's the first child. He's Ravana's first child, Mandodari's first child. He would have been so loved. And Mandodari's heart is so pure. And serving Ravana, but so pure. Knowing always that it's Ramchandraji that deserves our surrender and praise. And she does. She praises Ramchandraji only to Ravana, but stays true to her dharma and her duty and her position. And sometimes it's so easy to forget. Because, we're doing our actions and we're doing our work and we're trying to understand Maya and this thing. And then it's so easy to forget that there's not just Bhagwan's grace, but the grace of our ancestors that we don't know when it bears fruit. Like Indrajit himself probably wouldn't have known how much of a blessing it is that his last word is Ram, and that blessing is his mother's blessing. And the very second thing, I said two things, right? So he says Ram with his dying words, and it's very clear in the Gita. If that's your last word, if that's your last thought, you given heaven. Not moksha just yet, but heaven, because he still has a few pending karmas. Then secondly, when the Ramayana ends and Ramchandraji goes back to Ayodhya, then all the Rishi Munis from all over India come for Ramchandraji's coronation as the king, and he's praised for defeating Ravana. But Lakshman is praised more than Ramchandraji for killing Indrajit. Because Indrajit had this boon that he couldn't be killed by anyone who was even one thought distracted in their devotion. So to kill Indrajit, the person has to have zero distractions in their loyalty to Bhagwan. Actually, Indrajit's boon is the best one I've ever heard of. even on that battlefield, and there were quite a few. Then he said, I'll read out the full boon. Do I have to wear my glasses? So Indrajit's boon is that only one who was completely indifferent to the world, means zero desire for anything in the world. I think that's already like Rishi Muni status. Then they wouldn't be fighting in the battlefield. Who has foregone sleep and food. So zero desire for anything in the world, and has done tapas with sleep and food. Lakshman didn't sleep for 14 years. And here they're saying he didn't eat, but I think he ate. Although maybe he didn't eat, because when Ramchandraji and Lakshman went into the forest the very first time with Vishwamitra, then they were given 2 mantras. The mantra is called Bala, which means when you chant this mantra, you don't feel hunger and you don't need to eat. You're nourished by the mantra itself. So they were both given this mantra. So it's possible that for 14 years, he didn't even eat. Yeah. For 14 years, he didn't sleep is definitely true because it's in every Ramayana. And there's stories about Nidra Devi coming and telling Lakshman, but this is not fair. You owe me sleep. So, 1, zero interest in the world. 2, has foregone sleep and food. And whose mind has not wavered for even an instant from the Lord. And what a boon to ask for. Because really so few people will fulfill that quality. And maybe Lakshman had to do that tapas so that he could qualify to be able to destroy Indrajit on that battlefield. But also remember I said Indrajit is delusion. And Lakshman represents Vairagya. If they were an opposite to Vairagya, people would say it's attachment because Vairagya is detachment. But it's delusion. Because we only get attached because of our belief. Yeah. Even now, I was staying with a family in my last travel, and the lady said, but isn't it right that we do this? And it would have been, it was like, keep the children close. Isn't it right that we do that? That we keep them close? We should, right? We should keep them safe. I was just laughing. And I said, I'm not close to my parents. I'm sitting miles and miles and miles and miles away from them. They meant physically. Like, delusion makes us think whatever it is we are feeling. Please note, it's a feeling is correct. And then we use thinking to create a logic to justify what we are feeling. There was this interesting study done where they asked people what they wanted. Yeah. And I forget the exact outcome, but if you didn't particularly want something, you didn't have a strong viewpoint on this way or that way. But the minute you wanted something, you had a very strong viewpoint on whether this is right or this is better or that is right and that is better. Why? Because we decide our line of thinking to match what we are feeling. And so we are far more emotional beings than we are intellectual beings. But because we're using logic to justify our feelings, we think we're very logical. But if you wanted something else, you'd use different logic. And so the only way to combat delusion, like how will I know I'm deluded? It won't allow me to see it. Remember, Indrajit on the battlefield was invisible. Delusion won't allow me to see delusion. The only way to be able to see it, Lakshman didn't want anything. Vairagya means no desire. When there's no desire, I can see very clearly. This way, that way. Yeah. But I can only see clearly because so with us, we can see clearly other people. Right? Sometimes somebody in their life and then, maybe they upset about something and then we can see very clearly, but you only doing this, you only being stubborn, or you only, procrastinating and not getting the job done on time. And you only keep running away whenever opportunities, the other person is like, no, you don't understand. And even though we can see so clearly for the other person, we can't see ourselves. Why can't we see ourselves? Because we have desires. And so my desires for myself won't allow me to see me. But I don't have desire for that person, so I can see them very well. But if it's my own son or my own wife or my own mother or my own, I can't see them so well also because I have many desires. Yeah. But Lakshman could see Indrajit very clearly because there was no desire for, and it's very clear, there was no desire for the world. Lakshman had only one desire. Rama's will be done. And so you see, Lakshman sometimes wanted to fight. Rama looked at him, hits it. We see it so many times. Lakshman wanted to go kill Indrajit until Ramchandraji said, no desire except Rama's will be done. If that's my only desire, then I'll see very quickly my delusions. And so only Lakshman can kill Indrajit. Because only Lakshman is Vairagya. Ramchandraji didn't go to kill Indrajit. Of course he could, but he doesn't go. Yeah. And in the story it says because Ramchandraji slept and Ramchandraji ate. Lakshman didn't sleep, so only Lakshman could kill. But here it's that quality that Bhagwan manifests in us as Vairagya. And so Bhagwan himself is showing us, to solve your problems, I have sent you Vairagya. It's not, I can't do it. Remember, all of this is happening in our hearts. And so this is Bhagwan saying, I sent you solution. In all our hearts, Lakshman is there. That's why in Hanumanji's hearts, it's not only Ram and Sita. It's Ram, Lakshman, Sita ji. Lakshman is there. Third wheel. Why should third wheel be there? Because he's the solution. To get to Ram, we have to have Vairagya. To fight delusion. We'll pause here for today. So Kumbhakarna is dead. Indrajit's dead. Only one more person left. But next week we'll see. Before fighting Ravana, we do Vibhishan Gita. So maybe we'll finish the Ramayana story and then we'll do the Vibhishan Gita. And also, as we were telling the story of the Ramayana, we didn't do the Ram Gita also. So when Ramayana finishes, we'll do both the Gitas that come in the Vibhishan Gita, Lakshman Gita, and Ram Gita. All three Gitas come in the Ramayana. We'll finish those after the story is over. Lakshman Gita is very short, so mainly we'll do Ram Gita. Ravana is Rajas and Kumbhakarna is Tamas. Because Kumbhakarna slept for 6 months. That's super Tamas. All the worlds. Bhagwan's creation serves a purpose. Tamas serves a purpose. The purpose of Tamas is one, we rest, but it shouldn't be for 6 months. The other good thing about Tamas is that it's forgetfulness. Sometimes we need to forget things. Some incident, some lena dena with other people. Forget. Because sattva is knowledge, we hold on to sattva. And we act in a way that's wise, but we don't need to remember the pain. Sometimes we see that we'll just hold on to the pain and hold on to the pain and hold on to the pain. You'll meet people who are 80 years, 90 years old and they're still holding on to their pain. When I first got married, this happened to me. And this forget. It's gone now. So.
You're talking about that, having that mindset that when I have something good in me, Bhagwan's given it to me. And if it gets taken away, Maya won. But then isn't that us seeing in some instances Maya's more powerful than Bhagwan?
If I say Maya won, is that more powerful than Bhagwan? I'm repeating for the people online. No. Maya belongs to Bhagwan only. Yeah? But Bhagwan has complete control over Maya. Yeah. Sometimes Maya will win because Bhagwan wants it. Like when Naradji got deluded. Bhagwan wanted it. Or Kumbhakarna saying he wants sleep. Bhagwan wanted it. Sometimes Maya will win because Bhagwan is using it. But when I say in my own mind, Maya won, I'm not saying Maya is more powerful than Bhagwan. I'm saying my mind allowed Maya to win. Because my desire was strong, my attachment was strong, or I was unattentive. I was lazy. So it's me giving in. Not that Maya is stronger than Bhagwan. But Bhagwan doesn't hold us. Bhagwan's given us freedom. And He lets us choose whether we want to hold him. So sometimes we're holding him, sometimes we let go, and then Maya catches us. Then when we hold him again, Maya can't catch us. Like tag when these kids play. If I'm holding the wall, you can't catch me. I'm holding Bhagwan, Maya can't catch me. But when I forget Bhagwan, so that's my mind that forgot Bhagwan or gave into desire. So Maya won. But Maya is at no point stronger than Bhagwan. But Bhagwan gives freedom and Maya doesn't. If Bhagwan didn't give freedom, Maya wouldn't stand a chance. But Bhagwan gives freedom. So Maya stands a chance. He's so compassionate to Maya. Clear? We are using Maya to get to Bhagwan only. We're using our own mind, right? Our mind is Maya. Even my thinking is in Prakriti. It's Maya only. But Maya has Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So we have to hold on to Sattva. Everything we're experiencing is Maya only. So that's why you cannot criticize her. We have to invoke Sattva in her. Or be like Lakshman, stop eating. Joking, joking, joking.
Must not have been a desire.
Yeah. I was joking, of course. You give up the thirst for it, the hankering over it. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhavet, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityurmamritamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.